Hello and welcome to the ONTIC Connected Intelligence Podcast. I'm Chuck Randolph, ONTIC's Chief Security Officer. Join us as we delve into valuable insights and practical advice that will empower you to navigate the complexities of modern corporate security and risk. We're here to share knowledge from experienced leaders and innovators in the field. All right, get settled and let's dive in. Scott Lindahl is the Vice President of Corporate Services and Chief Security Officer at Kellanova, where he leverages a distinguished career in security and corporate management. Before joining Kellanova, Scott built an impressive resume with notable roles in security leadership, including serving as Director of Global Security at a major multinational corporation. His expertise spans both strategic oversight and hands-on security management, where he has consistently demonstrated a commitment to safeguarding organizational assets and fostering a secure operational environment. At Kellanova, Scott's deep industry knowledge and strategic vision plays a crucial role in advancing the company's corporate security and service excellence. Scott Lindahl, welcome to ONTIC's Connected Intelligence Podcast.
Well, and thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, Scott, when I think about you, you're like a consummate, quiet professional. So I do feel honored that we were able to tease you out of the Kellogg compound to come and spend a little time with us. It's not lost on me, my friend.
We've had some great conversations along the way, and happy to have another one here with you today.
Well, I've had some folks on before that, I consider mentors and people I go to when I need to figure something out or I need to get a question asked, or sometimes you need to go to somebody and say, look, I need some help with my critical thinking. You are one of those people for me. I say that unashamedly, and I appreciate everything and in the wise counsel that you've given me throughout the years. But I want to tease a few of that out here for the audience. I mean, Scott, you have an interesting career journey and you've seen security evolve, but you yourself haven't evolved as a leader. I'm curious what your observations are about the field of security, what changes you may have seen that you think are notable, and what might have driven some of those changes in the industry.
It's a heck of a place to start, Chuck. Good question. I think I'm one of the phrases I keep written down is speed of change, and I think security industry's changed a whole lot the last 5 years, let alone call it 20, 25 years. Those of us have been around to see it, and a lot of textbook talk early in my career about guards, gates, and guns, and boy, is that well behind us. A lot of time was spent talking about seat at the table and then convergence. And then, certainly, I think my view today, I think the industry conversations are certainly going more to partnership, enabler for the business. And then it's not new conversation, but the broader piece that the security professional is part of the risk and resilience conversation. And so that evolution is happening even further faster now.
I love the piece, especially about the risk evolution and security being part of it. You yourself in your own career, I mean, at some point you stopped, maybe talk a little about like at some point, security was one of several remits. And I think about this, like, how did your thought process, expand as your role expanded, especially as you probably are someone who uses the word risk more than security, given the remit you have. So can you talk a little bit about what you own and at what point you were given that and how you had to change your thinking?
Well, and change my thinking, right, has been one of those things that I've tried to challenge myself on for a long time, because I started out in the industry as a specialist, right? I was the new guy in the industry, and you know have had some great opportunities along the way to take on additional responsibilities, have some different experiences in different industries, and get to a point now that where I lead a corporate services team. So that's multifunctional. I like to remind my team that corporate services is serving the corporation. So that's where we start with. We have a whole lot of internal customers, whether it's real estate and facilities, whether it's global security, whether it's travel and expense, and a couple other pieces in there as well. And certainly that customer first piece, is one of those things I've had to learn. I think early on, and to the evolution of the industry. Security, at times we can want it to be very black and white and right and wrong, and this is what the policy says. And we can build a pretty darn good security program if the business just lets us be. But doesn't mean the security program applies to the business very well. Uh, so that conversation with stakeholders is one of those things where it's not probably early in my career. I thought we could go out and tell people how security needed to be in the organization. It's much more now for me about listening how the organization needs security, or needs these other services I have responsibility for, versus me trying to go in and then tell them what they need from us.
Scott, have you always, I mean, that strikes me as that's just critical thinking. Listening, active listening might be a dying art, but the ability to sit down and say, "Tell me first what it is you're thinking about or what you're worried about, and let me contemplate, go back, develop courses of action, and come back and say, here's how we're going to do that within a proper budget." I mean, have you always been that way? Do you consider yourself a critical thinker, or is that just part of, hey, my remit expanded, I need to expand, I need to start doing things differently? As you say, definitely corporate security wants to be black and white, but I found in my own career it's rarely black and white.
Yeah, well, it's certainly something that uh, I've gotten better at along the way. I find myself now falling back on my liberal arts education much more than I did, or I thought I was going to use it early in my career. Uh, because you're right, listening and critical thinking, and a little bit of what's the possibility, where does this go, is much more relevant to the role I'm in now than again, some of those things I did early in my career was more operational or task oriented, or very very narrow focused on from a delivery standpoint. Um, but yeah, it's something that I've had to really work on and go ask questions of not only my internal customers but other leaders and my own mentorship, to understand how people have gotten to where they are.
How do you I'm curious to kind of go back to the like multiple remits within your umbrella. And I know a lot of more CSOs, chief security officers, are given more and more. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One, we have budget issues, we have converging risks, and I think it's just kind of the way of the future. How do you balance the metrics and the goals of each of those lines of business? I mean, you have to sit down every day and understand the priorities and requirements. You have operations wanting one thing, security wants something else. At some point, you got to take those kids and say, here's how we're going to divide this up appropriately. Sometimes it's even, sometimes it's not. I mean, what's your approach to that?
Well, I think as these responsibilities came to me, one of the first things I did, and maybe I was fortunate to, pause and reflect on it, was when I was the security manager, I was, downstream from some of these other services that I'm responsible for now, where I was a business partner for them. And sometimes, the security budget, or the security budget in the project was the short end of the stick. Uh, so I spent a lot of time now and then again when these functions started reporting to me to look at what was truly end to end. There was an opportunity with travel and expense, and security. So whether it was duty of care and travel security, whether it was expense fraud, there was work there that was common that hey we could coalesce around, and certainly from a real estate and facilities and security systems or greenfield projects. Um, that one we could find common space and ownership of mutual ownership of projects, that within my team, hey, this is what we're going to keep coming back to, this is what we know, we understand, we're not all that different. uh, but certainly at the end of the day as a manager, absolutely sometimes you got to choose one between the other. uh, but I go back to what I said a couple minutes ago. It's really the value proposition for us is we're delivering a service that furthers the business, or enables the business to go out and do what they need to do. And if that's what we're aligned to, then we don't find so much conflict between those different functions.
I I love that too because I think part of a leader's job is to synchronize the effort across the line. Everyone wants to be first. Maybe it's sometimes it's unconscious, subconscious. Sometimes it's a conscious decision. But just trying to get everyone like, look, like you say, we need to enable the decision. So if we can all get on the same sheet. We can all be approaching and talking about the problem from the same way. So when we go to the boss and say, hey, here's the problem, here's the risk points, here's our courses of action or our options. What do you think? I think you're right. It helps that leader better understand, like, how do I get to this more rapidly? Because obviously there's multiple decisions a leader has to make in any given day. And I would think, like, especially in your position, you're there to help leadership, not tell them how to think, but what to consider on any given time.
Well, yeah. So not only do you have to bring the proposition, the value proposition to the table of, hey, this is, how I think I can add value to what we're going after as a business. Um, and that sometimes is not always, more security. And, whether it's time, it's money, it's how we're going to go solve a problem, whatever the value that we're there to bring. And I've certainly learned that from the other functions, that, how they go about the business, how they look at it, has been different. Uh, but yeah, to get, you know, the partnership piece with the business, it's certainly been about, back to listen and learn and then adjust the priorities because sometimes it's the real estate deal first, or it's the travel program, and we find that hey, we certainly have our regular travelers who are going to go to the edge of the earth. They're the first into the market, and we're not always as robust as we want from a security program. But hey, they can. We got to buy them a plane ticket. We got to get them there. And no one likes putting the train wheels on after the bike's already down the sidewalk. Um, but sometimes that's what we got to do and fit the security program in at the right place. The business needs it.
That's a great point. I mean, I think, like, whether you're in a startup or whether you're in some type of forward-leaning, operation where, hey, we're sending folks out ahead of the big wave, there comes that certain bit of, gosh, I got to think of a great, like, I'm a bit of a maverick. I'm out there doing my thing, and now the controls and the compliance catches up. And hey, I don't want to. That's not how we've always operated. Now we got to operate another way. I mean, and now you have to come in and say, well, that's great. We want you to be a maverick, but as the controls catch up, we have to kind of get everything aligned here, and you're part of that. Are those difficult conversations to have with people at times?
Well, I think first it's the self reflection, right, of understanding where the risk tolerance is, and a new market entry, right, and in different geographies, the risk tolerance can be much more accepting, and you get some of those folks who are willing to do that in the furtherance of their own mission. So